the lady walking up the is Camilla Babahani Milligan, and she's representing the Baha'i faith, tradition. I should say that Susan is representing Judaism, and then we've got Victoria Opperthauser, and she's Christianity, and we have Mohini Singh, representing Hinduism. We have Jillian Walsh, non-denominational spirituality, Swami Lalitananda, and she's of the yogic tradition, and Venerable Sarani Karuna from Buddhism. So as Ilya said, we are on Okanagan land, and
Creator, light up the road so I can see my way. Fix my mind now today, so where I go be good. Give me wisdom so I don't forget, and give me strength so I can defend myself.
I feel very honored and humbled at the same time to be alongside these ladies here. Now, my answer to the question, I was born, and before I could even decide anything, I was baptized as a Catholic when I was about 3 weeks old. So I didn't choose to be a Christian. And then my role models were all Christians at home. I went to a Catholic school for about 15 years. However, in my life, I have met women and men of different faiths.
I did decide to be a yogi and a Swami. So a Swami, it means a life dedicated to selfless service. And sannyasing means renouncing the maya, or the illusion of the world. So I became a Swami in 1996, and that was after I met Swami Radha, who was a woman teacher. And I think for me it was really important to have a woman as a teacher. I found that I could listen to a woman in a different way than I could a man. And she spoke very much from her own experience, and I really resonated with what she said and by her example. So she was a woman who had gone through a lot of trials in her life and had tools and passed those tools on.
So the question, why did I choose to be or continue to choose to be a Baha'i? Like Victoria, I didn't have a lot of choice in the beginning. My parents were Baha'is, my father from birth, and my mom became a Baha'i when she was in her late teens. So I was raised with the Baha'i community and with the Baha'i teachings, and continued to be fairly actively involved as a young person. Of course, as I grew older, I began to encounter other people of other faiths and learn more about them, and learn some of the questions that people might ask about the Baha'i faith. Well, why do you believe that, and why do you do that? And really learn about some of the valuable perspectives of other faiths. And, I was definitely intrigued and attracted to a lot of the values in other religions. There's a perspective that Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith, brings, which he terms progressive revelation. It's the idea that there is one divine source, and you can use whatever name you want, but it's the same spiritual reality. And that source created humanity and educated us, continues to educate us from the beginning of the existence of humanity, and will continue through eternity.
That there were some areas within Canada where our elders held close to them the pipes, they held close to them the prayers, the drums, the various other articles that we use, those sacred articles that we use for to do the ceremonies that we needed to do, the UBC ceremonies, the child naming ceremonies, the marriage ceremonies. And slowly they started to emerge. And when they started emerging, what they also brought was the respect for man and woman. That within that was the respect for the woman to play a role, because we play a very important role within the community. As a woman, we are the nurturers and the caregivers. The men are the providers and the protectors from a long time ago. as time has changed, that too has changed.
2,600 years ago, the Buddha ordained men and women as equal. He said that spiritually and intellectually we were equal. Now, as you can guess, that probably didn't make him very popular with some members of the Indian community that dealt with a hierarchical way of life. And today, we're finding in my tradition, which is the tradition of the elders, my main tradition, that we're trying to do our best without conflict, we women, to present Buddha's teaching the way that the Buddha did, as spiritually equal and intellectually equal to the men in our faith. There are many men that support us, both as monastics and as lay people, and there are many men that don't.
In Judaism, the role of women is basically the foundation of our belief. The role of women is traditionally, historically, in the home. Now, I know that 90% of you here are going to say, holy mackerel, how can that be in this modern age? And you're right. But, in saying that our role is in the home, as the parent, as the mother, it is our job to educate our children. And not just in the religious sense, but in the secular sense. We are to teach them not only how to cook and clean and sew on the occasional button, or how to play soccer or football, but also how to live their lives on a daily and moral basis. So this is where women are so very powerful in Judaism. And they have been since time began, because as soon as we say that you are responsible for everything in the future, that empowers everything that you do. It gives you so much strength and so much forthrightness.
And a lot of people believe that women are subservient to men. A lot of people believe that that's the way Hindus look at it, but it's not like that within the inner nucleus of the family. The woman is considered to be pure, earth, Mother Earth. India is a mother country. The cow we worship is the mother cow. Mother gives you life. Woman gives you life. A woman is considered pure. In fact, this whole business about arranged marriages and all, there's a sense of respect for the woman, because the father takes care of his daughter. While it has all, in many ways, changed over the years and may have evolved in some cases, not, in a negative fashion, the father, the premise of this is the father takes care of the daughter, raises her with love and respect. She goes to her husband's house not as chattel or ownership of property, but to be loved, worshipped, and nurtured, because she is the nucleus of the family.
But it has been the women in my life that have been truly a true inspiration to why I maintain an identity as a Muslim. My mother being one, so many wonderful teachers, family in Syria, have been incredibly inspiring, because I've seen what faith has done for them. And it's not easy to be a Muslim woman. In a Muslim country, even more so, it almost seems like in a non-Muslim country. I mean, strangely enough, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine saying it's as though Islam is the last place, or last sort of, Muslims are the last people where it's okay to kind of be anti-Muslim. It's not such a big deal when people are saying, oh, well, Islam teaches this and Islam teaches that, and because that's kind of the context that people hear it in. But it's hard, and it's hard to feel like, as a woman, you have to defend your faith and why you identify this way.
One way of expressing spiritual belief is through prayer shawls. Prayer shawls are knitted prayerfully and with intent. They are not for sale, but are a gift for a chosen recipient who is perhaps ill or grieving or in need of encouragement. They represent love. The knitter receives as much back, if not more, than she gives. Knitting has always been part of my life, and I have most often knitted with intent, thinking of the person I'm knitting for.
I've come to prayer shawls recently and find they've given me a sense of community as well as a practical way to express my spiritual energy. Spirituality is a vague term that is applied in many ways. It may refer to individual interior experiences, a sense of communion with nature, or it may be used as corporate branding for capitalist purposes. I use the term spirituality to describe my experience of God. And for me, God is love that is both transcendent and immanent.
I think my life was much more difficult before I got to my spiritual tradition, actually. And what I found in the spiritual tradition were tools that helped me understand myself. So that was a huge bonus for me.
And I chose not to say no to Islam. And I'll be frank and honest with you, my brother chose to say no to Islam. And that is a challenge for my family. It was. But they've also grown. My parents have grown enormously to come to say, you know, it is okay. And again, that's what a lot of this conference is about, is to see how the journey can be so valuable. So for me, you know, Islam, the basic tenets of Islam mean so much. The good things, the things that keep us moral, to keep us, you know, from stealing, and thinking of our fellow human beings, that we should be kind and good. And in Islam, we have one God, as they do in Judaism and Christianity.
Just speaking a little bit about growing up as a Baha'i, it was wonderful, and I was definitely in the minority, as I think a number of people have referred to in terms of their experience. So being different, being somewhat shy growing up, definitely was a challenge. You know, I was made fun of at school because of my name, because of my strange religion also, because of my crazy hair, which I can't blame on my religion. It's a little tamer today, but sometimes, you know, I recall at work one time, there's a Baha'i period of fasting every spring, from sunrise to sunset for 19 days, and it's purification and spiritualization in preparation for the new year. And it's always challenging, you know, especially the getting up early. Whoa. And
I'm really making a comment now, though, about a couple of things in my life that have happened that have made me stay a Christian, even though I don't go to church, as I said earlier. One really awful thing that happened when I was a long time ago now. My brother committed suicide, and at the time, nothing had ever happened like that in my family. I'd never heard of anything like that, never experienced anything like that, and everything was just stripped away from my life, except for this one thin little thread of faith that I had in God. And it's only in retrospect that I look back that is what kept me going then.
I'm going to read you a quote. And this happened many years ago. And this quote is done by Andy Rooney. And as you know, Andy Rooney on 60 Minutes, he was seen all over North America whenever he made it. And when he spoke. A lot of times we listened. And what he said was, well, American Indians have a grand past. The impact of their culture on the world has been slight. The time for the way Indians live is gone, and it's undoubtedly sad because they refuse to accept it. They hang on to remnants of their religion and superstitions that may have been useful to savages 500 years ago, but which are meaningless in 1992. This is part of what we've had to deal with over the years, in going back and saying that, yes, we have a culture here, we have a belief system, we have something that is very endear to us. One of the things that has kept us strong is that as a people and as a culture, we did not go through the Industrial Revolution. We did not have a lot of that hierarchy that came at us, and we, as a people, have been closer to the Mother Earth. Our gift that was brought to us from the Creator or God has been the gift as caretakers of this Mother Earth.
Life wasn't always smooth for me. When I was in a dark place, I found that my faith, my belief in a loving God kept me, I know it sounds strange, but kept me alive, because I felt that nobody cared for me, but if my God loved me, I felt that I was okay because He loved me.
I thought that I would just show you a couple of the prayer shawls and just talk about them for a minute. So I've never really liked shawls, and I thought, why does this appeal to me? What is it? And then I read somewhere that if someone ever says to you they don't even like shawls, say then, well, you haven't found the right shawl. And I found the right shawl for me in this. I don't even like the look of it, but I needed it. And so this is a square. It's a square with a knitted border that goes right around. I have a Scottish heritage, and when I immigrated here, I became interested in finding out more about myself, because my identity was kind of shaken around a bit. And so I worked out that you have, for a Shetland shawl, you have a square with a knitted border. And this was the first one that I did all in one piece, so it was quite an achievement. But anyway, so I put the tassels on the corners, and it's really quite cool, because you can do that and wrap it around. You can put your hands in here, and man.
So is that all it does? It just makes you go, ah. Tell us what is a prayer shawl? Like, what is it?
What it is that this I won't keep this, even though I'm just making the point that I've figured now that I found one that I like. But it is something that you either have someone in mind or they come into your mind as you're knitting. You then concentrate your thoughts, I guess it is, because someone said to me, asked me before, do you pray? Like, do you pray, blah, 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 for that person? I said, well, sometimes I do, but sometimes it's more an intensification of energy around